From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first.
I'm not going to demand any apology from anybody. What I am demanding is the return of assets.
Tout le monde nous disait que c'était impossible.
Everyone said it was impossible.
Mais ils ne connaissaient pas la France.
They didn't know France.
Hello and welcome to Global Arena, exclusive to Galaxy Television. This is where we bring you in-depth review and top analysis of foreign affairs issues. I am Nithemi Oguntoye. On the show this week, we're turning our attention to the Israeli-Palestinian row vis-a-vis President Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. We'll begin with a report telling the story of why Jerusalem is so contentious, and then we'll be joined by the Deputy Provost of Nigeria Institute of Journalism, Jide Johnson, who sheds more light on the issue. Stay with us.
It is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
When President Trump announces plans to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, he reversed decades of consensus about the status of the Holy City. The declaration sparked massive protest amongst Palestinians and throughout the Muslim world, amidst condemnation from some world leaders.
No one has the right to play with the fates of billions of people for the sake of one's personal ambitions.
Ignoring the Palestinian Muslim and Christian rights in Jerusalem will only fuel further extremism and undermine the war against terrorism.
They cannot oppose people's feelings and beliefs. This is a new type of adventurism and global arrogance of the U.S.
During its long history, Jerusalem has been attacked 52 times, captured and recaptured 44 times, besieged 23 times, and destroyed twice. The oldest part of the city was settled in the 4th millennium BCE, making Jerusalem one of the oldest cities in the world. But why is Jerusalem so contentious? Both Israelis and Palestinians claim Jerusalem as their capital. As the State of Israel maintains its primary governmental institutions there, the State of Palestine ultimately foresees the city as its seat of power. Israel has controlled West Jerusalem since 1949. During the Six-Day War, Israel captured East Jerusalem and annexed the half of the city, but the international community considered East Jerusalem occupied territory. In 1980, after Israel passed the law declaring United Jerusalem their capital, United Nations condemned the annexation. Palestinians want to divide the city and make East Jerusalem the capital of a future Palestinian state, while Israelis want a unified Jerusalem to be their capital. Control of East Jerusalem has been a trigger for violence many times in the past. The contested area is home to some of the holiest cities in the world for Jews and Muslims. It is the site where two Judaism secret temples once stood, and the site where the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven. The trouble is that these sites exist on the same land. Israeli officials control who have access to the complex, but Muslims have the largest control inside. Jews can enter, but Jewish prayer on Temple Mount is completely forbidden. Instead, they use the Western Wall. More recently, Israel set up metal detectors to enter the complex, which Palestinians say restricted access to the holy site, sparking a new round of violent protests.
We know we can't go in because of the electronic gates. It's not acceptable for us to go through an electronic gate to go to pray. So we stand here in protest.
No countries have embassies in Jerusalem. In early 70s, 16 countries had embassies, but after the UN Security Council condemned the annexation of East Jerusalem in 1980, member states left, leaving Jerusalem with only consulates. The U.S. will be the first country to have its embassy back in the city if Trump's declaration is backed up with actions, bearing in mind that the U.S. has avoided the embassy move for decades. The Congress had passed a law to relocate U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem more than 2 decades ago. The law, however, had a clause that allowed the president to delay the relocation for the sake of national security. Sitting presidents from Bill Clinton, George Bush to Obama have explored this clause and signed the waiver every 6 months. President Trump signed the waiver in June 2017 and again in December 2017. He said he would begin the process of moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He was careful not to call Jerusalem the undivided capital of Israel, saying the U.S. is open to a two-state system if both parties want it. There is, however, a growing global opposition to Trump's declaration and the proposed embassy move. Muslim countries worldwide want the recognition of East Jerusalem as the capital of a future Palestinian state. The tensions are higher in Jerusalem than usual as Palestinian militant group Hamas launched rockets into Israel from Gaza. As opposition rages and the battle for Jerusalem intensifies, the hope of achieving Israeli-Palestinian peace and stability is once again bleak. Jide Johnson is Deputy Provost, Nigerian Institute of Journalism. He joins us today on Global Arena. Thank you very much for coming.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
All right, so the issue of recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital began raising dust late last year. I'm quoting President Donald Trump now. He says there is nothing more or less than recognition of reality. It's also the right thing to do. It's something that has to be done. The decision, they said, was driven by a political campaign pledge saying that while previous presidents have made this a major campaign promise, they failed to deliver. Now, the question is, what's the implication of the U.S. taking side now, given the fact that U.S. has for decades positioned itself as the primary mediator between Israelis and the Palestinians?
Well, except one is not conversant with the issue concerning the Jews and the Palestine, concerning the state of Israel, the status of Jerusalem.
That's right.
And that interferes and the role of U.S. in mediating in the issue and the United Nations passive role in addressing the problem they created, which I'll come to that much more later. Will not come to anybody as a surprise. Israel has always sided with the Palestine. With the Jews. Israel has always sided with the Jews. And what Donald Trump did, whether it's a campaign promise or not, is just implementing a law that has already been passed by the United States Congress. As far back as 1995, the United States Congress passed an act, Jerusalem Embassy Act in 1995, that the American embassy should move from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which is in recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And successive government before Donald Trump did not put that to act. Everyone that has aspired, Bill Clinton promised, George Bush promised, Obama promised. They didn't live up to it, and it's Donald Trump made that pledge, and he went ahead to do it. Now, the implications of that, whether it's a good decision or a bad decision, is subject to evaluation. However, Donald Trump carried out his campaign promise. One, he delivered on his campaign promise. Two, he acted on a law that has already been passed by the United States Congress. So there's nothing out of this world as regards what Donald Trump did in reflection of United States policy towards the Jews and the status of Jerusalem has been part and parcel of Israel. But whatever Donald Trump touches is a controversy.
Well, he's already made the statement, but there are people who are saying that are we really going to see the U.S. Embassy moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem anytime soon? Is it going to be an issue where the declaration is made, but it's not really implemented in time?
Well, that we are not too sure, because it's not a direct act. There's a delay as regards, even building of the embassy and the rest of it would take time. But the pronouncement has been made, except another president comes in and change that. At least we know quite all right that there is an official declaration, there is a pronouncement. It's just a matter of time before that action is carried out. And if that decision is not overturned, it becomes a policy, it becomes a law, let me put it that way.
That's right.
As regards that place.
Let's look at, let's consider what this changes in the long term. Some are saying that losing America's neutrality, which you don't even believe existed before, means losing America's leverage over Israelis and Palestinians to achieve peace. Is that the way you also look at it?
I don't know how we are going to arrive at amicable settlement concerning the issue surrounding Jerusalem, between the Palestinians and the Israelis. You know, the Jewish state, it's a product of United Nations resolution in 1947. When, you know, what used to be, where the Israelis and the Jews are used to be part and parcel of the Ottoman Empire. That's right. Until 1917, that Britain took over that territory from the Ottoman Empire. There were no, you know, that's towards the tail end of the First World War. And then by 1948, you know, at the end of the Second War, you know, the Jews suffered annihilation, persecution, and the rest. Okay, United Nations saw the need for them to create a state for the Jews. And where could we create the state? So they created the buffer zone in Israel, where the Palestinians are. And two states solution was provided. That's right. One for the Israelis, one for the Arabs. The Jewish people accepted that plan, and Jerusalem, that's why I said Jerusalem, the problem we are witnessing is the creation of United Nations. United Nations was not as polarized as it is today then in 1947, because Jerusalem was given as an international status, as an international territory. That's it does not belong to the Jews, it does not belong to the Palestine, that the issues will be resolved. And when that decision was taken, the resolution, the Jews, the Israelis accepted the United Nations resolution as regards that, okay, the partitioning of Palestinians, they accepted, but the Arabs rejected, and which led to 1940. The Jews declared independence in 1948, which led to war, and a lot of territories were conquered and were acquired through military conquest, because the initial deal, the 1947 deal, was rejected by the Palestinians. And from when there is war, any conquered territories belongs to the victor. Even the nations that we have in the world were product of, like we said, 1947, 1917, all of these territories were under Ottoman Empire.
Do you think that automatically settles it?
No, it's not going to settle it, because that's why I said that the United Nations is not as polarized as it is now in 1947. That decision could have been solved. The problem could have been solved once and for all then. And I'm not sure in my lifetime, in your lifetime, we'll be able to resolve this problem, because the issue has become so polarized that you have different actors and players having interest with regards to the issue of Jerusalem. So the fight over Jerusalem is going to be a continuous process, to my own understanding, because religion has come to play a factor in this.
Let's look at the 1974 UN resolution that envisages an independent state of Palestine alongside the state of Israel. Over the years, we've seen polls consistently showing respectable Israeli and Palestinian majorities in favor of a negotiated two-state settlement that you made mention earlier. Most are foreseeing a peace deal that gives Western Jerusalem to Israel and the eastern part to Palestine, a future Palestine state. What really is wrong with this two-state solution?
You see, that's why I said it's the polarization of the world. Are you with me? The polarization of the world we have found ourselves in, because there's the proper solution to the problem is the two states solution, whereby the East Jerusalem belongs to the Palestinians and the West Jerusalem belongs to you know, every time you are reaching an accord as regards implementing UN resolution and what have you, the moment they leave the negotiating table and each country return back, they maintain a standpoint that maintains the status quo.
That's right.
I think the solution to it is for United Nations. That's why I said this problem is a United Nations creation. In 1947, they could have resolved the problem by not internationalizing Jerusalem. By not internationalizing Jerusalem, it could have been partitioned like they did. It took them 1948 to 1974. Are you getting my point? Any problem you don't deal with at the embryonic stage might become a monumental problem. And the seed of discord that was sown as far back as 1947 with respect to not acting in the best interest of the two states in terms of partitioning, because Nigeria is a product of partitioning.
That's right.
Cameroon is a product of partitioning. Bakassi was taken away from Nigeria by international court. The kid and kin of people in Bakassi, they are in Nigeria, they are Calabar people. But yet, because of partitioning as a result of division of Africa among the European powers in 1818, led to the partitioning of every state is a product of international organizations. At the end of every war, you know, at the end of the First World War, you had the League of Nations, and the League of Nations, the victors sat down, they drew the maps of territory. At the end of the Second World War, the Allied forces sat down and drew the map of territories, and as a result of that, whatever they achieved at that particular point in time created states, created nation states, created issues. So at that point in time in 1947, that decision could have been taken, and the problem is still there. The United Nations is heavily polarized.
Let's look at the position of the US President Donald Trump, who was also quoted to have said that he would support a two-state solution if agreed by both sides. How's that going to work after just announcing and acknowledging Jerusalem to be the capital of Israel?
Like I told you, that announcement is just carrying out what had been an act. 1995, there's an act duly passed by the Congress, the House of Rep in America, and the Senate, recognizing Jerusalem. It's called Jerusalem Embassy Act. So it's just following through what a decision that has already been taken by the Congress. I think the solution to that problem is the two-state solution. Is the two-state solution, and I think that at one point in time or the other, they will come to the negotiating table, and this issue will be resolved. This partitioning will take place, and then we can have peace in that environment. But if we don't have that two-state solution, there will still be crisis. There will still be issues as regards the status of Israel. Don't forget, even there are some states that have not even recognized Israel as a nation.
That's right.
That itself created. Like I said earlier, the Jews accepted the proposal to create the two states in 1947. The Arabs rejected it. That led to war. And if you engage in war, if I count your territory becomes mine.
It becomes mine automatically.
It becomes mine. So that's why I said that from 1948, the United Nations could have resolved the problem. How many nation states do we have? Even Nigeria did not exist in 1948 as a nation. Nigeria is still a colony of the British government. Now, by the time they voted in 2017, December 21, Nigeria voted. Are you getting my point? You see that 128 countries voted. Out of 193, almost two-thirds voted against American recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And you see, at that time, how many players do we have at the global stage? Now we have a lot of players playing a role.
Earlier, you talked about the religious angle to this, the Christian evangelicals who believe strongly that prophetically from the scripture, Jerusalem belongs to Israel. And of course, there's also a strong Islamic fundamental belief of how relevant that part of the world is to their religion. How do you foresee both religious groups coming to terms to agree on this two system that you talked about?
There's no way there can never be an agreement. Major Fashek sang a song. He said, "Religion and politics. Religion has become politicized." And it's unfortunate that if you have a deep understanding of the religion, we all practice Abrahamic religion. All of this religion originated from one man, Abraham. The Islamic faith, the Christian faith, and Judaism.
That's right.
That emanated from that, and so it's from the same family, from the same man, from the same source, and that polarization has always been there. How we achieve, and if we take religion out of the issue, if we deal with the people that lives in that community, I'm sure if we take religion out of it, people relate better as neighbors, as living together in the communities, but when you bring religion into any discourse, it causes polarization. If you take an example even from our own nation too, when we are talking, when there's no religion, we relate better, we work better, but when religion comes into issue, it causes division. And that's why I said that religion has entered into this. The Islamic world sees it as our rightful position. The Christian world, the evangelical, sees it as a rightful position. The Jews lay claims to the territory, and as a result of that, three different groups fighting for one interest, and we've just come to sit down and resolve this issue. The solution to the problem is the two-state solution, and for the Arab world to recognize the Israel, and the Israelis to understand that the Palestinians have a right to nationhood. And I think that's the solution to the problem.
Can the U.S. still play its role as a primary mediator between Israel and Palestine?
Well, the U.S. still has a dominant role to play. There's no doubt.
Given the fact that they've already taken sides.
Yeah, you see, it's in every issue. There's no way you don't take side. We all have our biases. It's only God that can be absolutely objective. Are you getting my point? It's only God that can be absolutely objective. Let's take the issue of Syria. The Russians were in support of the Syria. The Americans were supporting the terrorist group. It was when this president came in and started aligning with Russia. Let's deal with this issue together jointly. Let's deal with ISIS. ISIS is even more a bigger problem than Assad in Syria. So there's always partiality. Even if you're a father, you have children. You are naturally you like one more than the other, but you have a role to play. The role of your father. America still has a role to play. If you take American out of the equation, you cannot resolve the problem. And I think that Russia, Britain, and France needs to come to the party. When they come to the party, this issue could be quickly resolved. Let me tell you this. Is even within the Islamic world, there is a division between the Shiite and the Sunnite. The Sunnite Muslims did not speak against this issue. The Shiite, as represented by Iran and some elements in Turkey, because that territory used to be.
And Egypt as well. There's a silent controversy there that it's possible that the government is, undecided. They're saying that
there's an accord between Egypt and Jordan in 1967.
That's right.
Because the Israelis were about taking over Suez Canal.
That's right.
And they will have conquered that place. It will have dealt with the Egyptian economy. And that's why I said that the Arabs and the Jews must come to the realization that they must live together as one nation. And both must yield grounds. You can't, if you are not ready to make concession, there can't be peace. For peace to reign, there must be concession. The Jews must be ready to make concession, and the Arabs too must be ready to make concession. And I think that will solve the problem. If you take the external forces outside of Palestine, Jerusalem, and the rest of it, you see that this problem will be resolved. It's the external forces, the pressure from America, pressure from Turkey, pressure from Iran that is creating the problem. I tell you this, if you go to that region, it's like someone coming to Nigeria. You won't be able to distinguish who is a Yoruba man, who is an Hausa man. It's people living in Nigeria that will tell you, this is an Hausa man, this is a Yoruba. So if you go to that region, ask people that have traveled to Israel, that have traveled to that region, they will tell you, you will not be able to distinguish who is a Jew or who is a Palestine. In fact, they live together, they look alike, and it's even the Jews or either of the two countries that will tell you, oh, this is a Palestine, this is.
And that's how much we can bring to you on this episode. We'll be back next week with the concluding part of that interview. You can reach us via any of the social media platforms showing on your screen. Until next week, keep supporting a united and prosperous Africa. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Thanks for being there.